Steve here, Shen RC with the RGT 124th mini crawler, and I got some tips and tricks you could do to make it work better. It also works for the FTX version and the ECX version. So let's look what I did here. First off, here's a trick. I have this out, but I'll put it in real quick. The battery, you could put tape right across the servo in the center gearbox and hold it there so it goes down low to the chassis. That makes it handle better. Okay, now to the real stuff. When you get this, there could be problems. I took mine apart and all the bushings in it were like bone dry in the center gearbox and in the axle. So what I did is I just lubed them with an oil, or you could use a fine thin grease on there that ain't too thick. Another thing you got to do to check this before you do anything else that I'm going to say to do is, you see these screws on the bottom here for the spindles? There's 2 there and 2 on the top. Check, you could see the dog bone drive cups. If those screws, like mine were from the factory, they were tightened in so hard that they were binding, sticking out through the other side, hitting the drive dog bone cups, and they are actually scraping into the metal and binding the movement. So what I did is unscrewed them a hair, all 4, and it got loosened up. After you do that, the next thing you want to do is check your wheel nuts, because if they're too tight, it'll bind. So what you have to do is put your finger like this and just rock it. It should rock real easy back and forth. If it don't, unscrew each wheel nut a little bit and do this until you find that it's rocking easy. You can see that's perfect. They don't need to be tightened all the way down, just barely bottomed out and maybe a little bit backed off, and it'll make it loose like this and it'll run much better. Another thing is, you got to check under the gear cover. There's a spur gear with a nut on it, and what you want to do is unloosen that nut and just barely bottom it out, because if it's tightened too much down from the factory, it'll bind up your gearbox too and cause friction. So if you do everything I mentioned on the truck, it'll free everything up and it'll run much nicer. So that's some tips I did to mine that worked real good, because some of the stuff was tightened up from the factory, like I said, and it was binding. So check over your rig and do this to it. You'll have a much better running truck. And I hope these tips helped you out. And we'll see you next time. Shen RC. Give me a thumbs up, guys.